Welcome, everyone. You found Sanctuary's Coffee and Conversation Show. I'm Myrna Haskell, executive editor of Sanctuary Magazine. This is an online publication for women that empowers and inspires with a focus on the arts, philanthropy, health and wellness, culture, and community. You can find us at sanctuary-magazine.com. This morning, my guest is Talene. She is an award-winning abstract artist, environmentalist, and a signature member of the National Association of Women Artists. She also lives and works off-grid in the beautiful mountains of Southern Colorado. Good morning, Talene. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Good morning. It's nice to see you again.
It's great to see you too. That's the beauty of technology these days, right?
Amazing.
We see each other at an occasional event, though, and everything's, which is
Yeah,
great too.
yeah.
So anyway, I think some of the community who's watching today will recognize you because you also happen to be a gold sponsor of Sanctuary Magazine. And we love so much that you're an integral part of what we do. You have so much to say and your artwork is beautiful. Today,
Thank
we're going to
you.
be talking about absorbing and reflecting our surroundings. And we're going to talk about it in terms of your artist journey, but I really think a lot of things are going to come up that anyone can, take from and learn from today. So, Talene, a lot of your work or most of your work really has to do with this intimate connection with our natural surroundings. So I wanted to start out by asking you, because I know you walk your property in those beautiful mountains, you go on hikes, you love the ocean, all of that. And I'm wondering if I could ask you a little bit about process. Do you take sketches, or I know you do a lot of writings. Do you write things down when you're in nature, or do you just silently absorb and then go back to the studio and it just comes through?
It's probably a hybrid of all of the above, but one of my favorite things to do is walk. No matter where I've lived in the world, no matter which art center I've done a residency at, or now that I have this beautiful piece of land and property, I just love to walk, and I like to look at the little flowers growing. And, right now we have wildflower season, so it's beautiful. Every day is a different batch of flowers and a different group of colors to look
I
at.
love that.
On our property, we have several hiking trails that my husband and I have blazed through the woods. So we've actually got several areas with giant boulders. I call them like my little meditation spaces. So I'll go sometimes and go for a little walk and sit on the boulder, with my water and my little sketch pad, and I'll just sit there and draw for hours and, take in the sunshine and feel the wind or the breeze on my face and watch the birds swoop. Right now we've got eagles that are coming in and hawks that are coming in, and they soar on the wind, and it's just most beautiful thing to see. And the morning, when the morning doves start to make that beautiful sound, it's just lovely to sit outside and just absorb all that
Yeah, and I see that in your
nature and
work
good.
too. You
Yeah,
had those different series on weather and even just the lighting, the difference between some of the pieces you did that have that more feel of sunrise versus sunset or vice versa, right? And the
yeah.
walking thing, Talene, we should all be doing that, right? Because first of all, it's so good for your health, right? You're
Mhm.
not like putting a lot of pressure on your joints, but you're still circulating and getting your heart rate up. And then just being outdoors, in the
Yeah,
fresh air. I'm one that right
it
now it's hot as Hades in New York right now, Talene. We're like in the mid 90s. But I love that fresh air. I love to open the windows at night, even when it's been a hot day, and just like get out of air conditioning and that fresh air and just and as you said, like looking at the flowers and the multitude of colors and things, I really see it in your work. I see what you've seen in your work. And I think even just looking at other folks, right? Not even necessarily fine artists, but interior designers or somebody who's just redoing their home and the colors they're choosing. And when they try to bring the outdoors indoors, and all of those things, it's kind of all placed together, right?
that's right. That's right.
Yeah. So you've been working, you have some new work out. Obviously, you always have new work out. You're very passionate about like just putting new things out there for us to explore with your work. But your portal collection, I'm very interested in that portal collection. The inspiration behind this, the idea that a portal as a gateway or a doorway, or an eye or a view into something new or something else. So please talk about that a little bit. We're going to be sharing some photographs of that work with the viewers. What would you like to say about the portal collection?
Well, I started thinking about those very notions, over the past several years, all the different doorways that I've had to walk through and entrances or exits that I've had to walk through, and changes that I've had to make in my own life and my own thinking. And, I just began to be real interested in exploring the notion of time portals, addressing the idea of portal and time, as you mentioned, as a gate, doorway, or a gate, or an entrance, and especially a large or imposing one. During my time exploring and reflecting, not only in my landscape, but just, traveling and going through the different portals, that the idea kind of became a point or a place of entry, as one where like nerves or vessels enter an organ, or how I'm moving through space and time. The portals could also represent, vortexes of energy, which allow matter to travel from one point into another point in time. And I think probably one of the more obvious reasons that I lingered in the portal idea was to give enjoyment of being transported into another world. Using my imagination to, go someplace else, whether it's a positive or a negative, and how to spin it into a means of enjoyment or power, and just how that makes me feel when I'm entering into a space that maybe I'm not comfortable with, or maybe I am comfortable with, and how do I change that feeling of nervousness into excitement? How do I change that feeling of fear into joy and happiness? Because it really does make a big difference if you're entering into an adventure or going through a time portal with a positive mindset. It makes things much easier in life. So
Yes,
that's
and you know
kind of
what?
the sum of it. Mhm.
Yeah, I see that. And I also see in your work, Tolleen, and I think I'm hearing it in some of the things that you said, that when you enter a gateway, a doorway, a new space, um, there's movement there. You mentioned time, that you're not like stuck in one place, stuck in one moment. It's a new experience that actually travels and moves, right? Because I know you've heard
Right.
the expression that a photograph or a painting might freeze something in time. But what I really get from your work is that it's not really a frozen image in time. It is what it is, depending on when you're looking at it and what you're feeling inside. So it's that, and Mother Nature is also changing all the time, right?
All the
And
time.
so, can you just say a little bit about that with your work? Because that's something I really get as a viewer from it, that
Mhm.
constant motion, constant change, different perspective from your work.
Well, like, just take as an example, today it's a really windy day. And the wind in and of itself, when you sit in one place, the wind is blowing your hair. So your hair is changing all the time. The landscape is changing and moving as the wind is blowing. Dirt picks up and moves and travels. So things that happen in nature, the sun coming up and setting, is changing all the time, because each day it's moving in terms of longitude and latitude, and depending on what's happening with the weather will change the color structure within the passage of the day and the night. When you look at the stars, I sit on my deck and I look at the stars at nighttime at times, and it's always moving and changing. Well, depending on how the Earth is rotating, or which season we're in, or what satellites are flying overhead. So we're not in a static, no one is static, because we're always continually changing and growing. Our hair grows, our nails grow, our skin
Right.
grows. Everything is moving and changing. It's a constant constant movement. It's not stable and stuck in time. So
So do you think about that when you work on different series? Do you have some of your series actually specifically expose that? In other words, if you have 3 or 4 pieces to a series, it might show what the environment was doing like over time through the
oh
series. Do
yeah.
you like consciously do that in your work, or does it just come out?
I think it just comes out, honestly. Like if we look at the Portal collection, some of the if you look at the images, there's kind of a very similar portal structure within each piece. But and red is kind of the color that stitches it together. But when you look at each panel, the way I've handled the layering or texture or even just the individual portal, they're different. Each one
Yes.
is different. So I think of my work more, I have collections, but it's more of a daily diary of what's happening, within my internal being, but also external. The weather
I love
changes,
that. Yes.
the colors change. So, I might like today when I go down to my studio, it's such a beautiful day. The color that, I'm surrounded by blue right now. So more than likely I'm going to paint blue today because it's so beautiful today. On the days where I paint pink, last night the sunset and the clouds, oh my gosh, the clouds were pink, the most beautiful magentas, like my shirt, pink, that I'd ever seen. So, I remember that. And then, I'll grab that shape or the line or the color and I'll grab that in my mind and, oh, there's that color, and I'll mix it and just play with it all day in the studio. So,
Well, you're also, some might know this, but some may not. You're also a writer where you love poetry, you love to incorporate writings that coincide with paintings that you do. And you also have a blog on your website. And some recent writings you did really struck me, and I thought they were very good and something I'd like to share here. And they're about the importance of solitude. And
that's right.
so if you don't mind, I want to read this little piece because I think this is wonderful. And I thought it would be a good segue into talking about solitude and the importance of solitude and what it can do for us in a positive way. You say,
Yep.
you write rather, this act of being alone with oneself is not an escape from reality, but rather a pilgrimage to the core of our existence. It is a conscious decision to peel away the layers of masks and pretenses, to confront the complexities and vulnerabilities that reside within. As we embark on this journey, we begin to better understand our experiences, emotions, and aspirations. I just love that. So I want that to be our springboard about solitude because, Tolleen, as you know, a lot of what we do, we talk about meditation at Sanctuary. We talk about, this work-life balance and what it means to have self-care. And part of self-care is spending time with self, right? Reflecting,
That's right.
taking in your surroundings. So let's talk a little bit about the importance of solitude. And thank you for that piece on your site. I love it.
Well, thank you. It was lovely to hear you read it. Yeah, I see I've been up here in the mountains now for I think it's about 9 years. And but prior, to being in one space, I spent about 9, almost 10 years living in artist residencies. I was very fortunate, to have that opportunity, living out of my suitcase, going from residency to residency. And so I learned early in my career that the importance for an artist is the alone time, and to be able to reflect and think. But it's also really important in terms of growth as an individual.
Yes.
Our work as artists gets better and deeper and richer when you spend time alone. To think, to rest, to contemplate, to absorb knowledge is really important. Reading, exploring, talking to others is also important, but that alone time is where growth really happens.
I agree
Um,
with you. And I think a lot of people don't purposely find time in their day to do that.
But it's
And if you're
important.
not doing it at all and you're really not giving yourself that time to escape all of the noise and to really think deeply, I think you're doing yourself an injustice, really.
It's so important that you learn how to nurture yourself.
Yep.
You learn how to take care of yourself, because what it does is when you do that for yourself, you contribute to the collective consciousness, and that causes a positive ripple effect of positive change in the world around us. So if everybody in the world took some time to just be alone and learn who they were, listen to their soul and their heart, listen to their higher being, whatever belief system they believe in, but to listen, the world would be just an amazing place of positivity and joy and happiness, and everyone would be helpful and kind towards each other and respectful. It would be a wonderful utopian, place to live.
Yeah,
So,
well, and we need that these days.
yeah.
Um,
So much
yeah,
noise in the
yeah,
external world. So, being silent, it becomes like a sacred pause, a moment to commune with nature, with our surroundings, with ourselves. So, it's in the stillness where we hear the echoes of our own heartbeat and the whispers of our soul and the universal rhythms that bind us all together. So it helps us. We also have, when we spend time alone, we find that space to dream and to envision a life that aligns us all with our truest desires. So, we cast away all the limitations imposed by external expectations, and we embrace the boundless possibilities that lie before us. So I really think it's important to do that, because it also gives us the opportunity to, once we know ourselves and we understand our emotional, our own emotional needs, we're better able to, be with other people and in a gentle, kind way.
that's right.
You
I
know,
agree. Yeah.
we come from, it's a better space. It's like emotional intelligence, and we're better able to be more compassionate and understanding to others. So I think it's important to spend time alone.
I agree. And I think a lot of people who are listening here, probably if they think back, they had one or two like aha moments in life, where maybe they changed direction in a positive way. And that
Yeah,
happened during
yeah,
alone time and reflection, right?
yeah,
Well, thank you for that. I
yeah,
couldn't talk to you today about your art without addressing your large fiberglass series, because we are talking about immersing ourselves in the natural environment today, right? We're talking about reflecting, absorbing all of that. And so I find with your fiberglass works, especially when they're hung in a surround sort of way around the space, the room, the gallery, your studio, it really changes the whole mood and the whole feeling when you walk in of, even though it's indoors, it's that whole nature coming in, change in mood, movement, because they're hung, right? So it's not a stagnant situation like maybe a canvas might be against the wall. It's actual physical movement. I mean, obviously, many artists, through their work can demonstrate movement in a still piece on canvas, but it has also that physical. You were talking about the wind today. So there's a little bit
yeah.
movement when people walk by. So I'm going to show some of these images of your fiberglass works. But what I specifically wanted you to talk about, Tallene, besides the inspiration behind these types of pieces, is perhaps maybe some of the challenges you have with these pieces, because they are large and there is a lot of movement to them when you're hanging them, when you're spinning them on your tables and working with them. So whatever you'd like to say about those larger fiberglass series.
Well, so first of all, I would really like the listeners to understand that I have my fiberglass work is extra special. It's my most favorite medium to work in, and I love working large scale. I love that, people have when you go up to them, they're life size, they're full size. Some of them are, they're 8 feet tall.
Yeah.
On the small side, they're 3 feet wide. Right now, I'm working on a 54-foot long one.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and some of them are banner style. Some of them are framed. Some of them I've designed, doors that slide. So 4 or 5 panels in a framed door system that hangs on a track
Right,
so they
that's right.
slide.
I've seen those. I forgot about those.
Yeah.
Yes, as
Some
opposed
of
to the
them
loose
are
hanging ones. Yeah.
right. Some of them are one-sided, there's more static for framing so they hang on a wall. Some of them are two-sided banners, so they're meant to be hung, in a similar fashion as like the tapestries that you'd see in the castles in Europe, hang on the wall, or you can flip them or hang them out
You
in
can
the
change
street.
them over time when they're two-sided too,
Oh,
right? If
yeah.
they are close to a wall, you can change them at will.
But turn them around,
Yep.
yeah. And I've, swivel door, I've have little prototypes of swivel doors so they can, be rotated, and that could be built and installed in a corporate setting, or even in a large home or small home, as a door. Some of them have, are behind glass to protect them. Some of them are not. So, it's all based on kind of what idea I'm working with at the time, or
Okay.
what I'm observing in nature. Um, what was the other question?
I'm just curious about, I
Oh,
like to
challenge.
ask when it's large installation work or large pieces, as you mentioned, you said one of them that you're working on now is 54 feet. So I was just wondering if you can share, because we do have a lot of artists who watch this show. Some
Yeah.
of the challenges you've had or that you've been able to embrace and fix or anything like that that you'd like to say about these large scale pieces.
So I think probably the biggest challenge for large scale is physical fatigue. Like the piece that I'm working on, the 54-foot long one, that's 10 panels essentially. So it's a lot of climbing ladders, lifting, holding the painting, coming, putting it on the table, because I work tabletop, and I, pour, use my hands, use a brush, I pour and smear paint. And then I have to lift it, climb the ladders, hang it back up to dry, and then I have to go around, and when I'm mixing colors, I want to make sure that I'm mixing enough to hit all 10 panels. So going from panel 1 to panel 10, that takes me about an hour. So it's like going to the gym,
Yeah.
working out for an hour, because it's up and down the ladder. So by the time I get to number 10, I'm really,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was a workout. In terms of installation, God, they're super easy when they're in a banner format, because it's
Okay.
just, I ship them in a big tube. You unroll them on a table, you put a dowel in, and you hang them.
Okay.
Um, when they're built in a frame system, it's really no different than a canvas,
Right.
except it's bigger. And the frame is a little thicker, and maybe a little, you might need 2 or 3 people to pick it and hang it versus, one. The banners are real easy. If someone's uncomfortable hanging them, I always suggest 2 people to do it. One person to climb the ladder, the second one to hold it, and then you hook it and then slowly unroll it. So there's always a way to problem solve it, and make
Yeah,
it
that's
work.
true. That's true.
Yeah.
And you probably, when I heard you say, you spend all these hours and it's actually like a workout, it's probably because you're in that moment, that passionate moment where you don't want to like do 2 panels and leave it because you see this whole like vision of what you see the whole series being, right? Is that why you keep
Yeah.
going and going?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some days I have to go, okay, that's enough. Stop. You've done enough today. Sometimes I have to put limits, okay, only 2 colors today,
Okay.
because it's a lot of up and down the ladder and climbing. So but I
And
can
color
always,
is very important in your work. Very
yeah.
important. Anything you want to say about color? I know you've already been sort of talking about it. You're talking about the natural colors in nature and how they're incorporated, but anything else you'd like to say about mood, color, and how you see particularly the larger works actually affecting mood of the folks that are in the room at all?
Oh, especially at a large scale like that, I'm very conscious of color and the psychological impact of color. I'll give you a story. I had a residency in the Vermont Studio Center. I was on fellowship there. It was really wonderful. I was there during the month of April. And every time I'd go to breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I just noticed that there was a lot of complaining going on. All the artists were complaining, oh, the weather, oh, it's raining, oh, the mud. It was just complain, complain, complain. And I thought to myself, you know what? I'm sick of listening to all the complaining. I'm gonna change the environment. So I went into my studio. I know about the power of red, orange, and yellow, and how that can really lift the mood and bring happiness and joy just through the use of that color.
Yeah.
So I went to my studio and I whipped out a painting that was mostly reds, oranges, and yellows. It's called Insidious Drizzle, because I was so sick of all the insidious complaining and the drizzle outside. But I loved it because it was, it entered all those negative ions from the
It
rain.
inspired you to do something
It's
to fix it.
energizing. So I
Yeah.
got the painting done. I whipped the painting out in like a week. And I went back and I asked, can I hang it in the cafeteria? So I hung it, I think it was above the fireplace. There's like a little lounge area before you go into the cafeteria. So that's where I hung it. And from that day forward, no one complained. They sat in the room and the colors were so powerful. Some people talked about the painting, but I noticed, I sat, in the corner and just paid attention to what was happening. And people all of a sudden started talking about happy things.
That's
Oh,
great. So there was just a general change in mood.
total
Yes.
change in mood. So it was really fun to run that a little experiment, because I've always kind of thought about that when I work in the studio.
Well, I'm not sure if you're aware, Talene, but this month in our June issue, we actually had an expert in chromotherapy, color therapy in our
Yeah.
alternative therapy section. So if you folks haven't read it, check it out from our homepage. But anyway, I wanted to give you a minute or two to talk a little bit about anything you'd like, where folks, if they're interested in seeing more of your work, if there's anything new, you mentioned this 54-foot piece, or certain series you'd like them to take a look at when they go to your website. We will have your information at the end of the show, but anything you'd like to say, to share about your work?
Well, I'm really excited right now. I've been shipping a lot of artwork out to the East Coast, and I have paintings hanging in the Art Complex Museum in Duxbury, Massachusetts. I just had some
That's
work
fabulous.
hanging in Gallery Sitka. I just got word this morning that I got I wish I could remember right now. It's a design center in Boston
Oh,
where my work is going to
fabulous.
be. And then I also just got into a show in one of the courthouses in Seaport. So my work will be hanging there
Oh,
until
that's wonderful.
all summer. So
Congratulations.
yeah,
I'm
I'm
so
really
glad your work is
excited.
being seen so much all over. That's
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah, it's very
Okay,
exciting.
I ask that listeners and readers go check out Tallene's website and see all the different things she's doing, her different series, her writings. Check out the blog. That's what I was reading from earlier in the show. But anyway, Talene, I wish we had more time, but I'm going to have to close. I just want to thank you so much for joining me again, though, on the
Thank you.
show. This is wonderful. I love to share what you do with your art.
Thank you so much. It was really nice talking to you and seeing you in your pretty yellow today.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we were talking about yellow, weren't we?
Yeah.
I'd like to close, as I always do, by wishing all of our listeners and our readers good health, happiness, and continued inspiration. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.